So, no, I wouldn't say I have a passion for HR.
Welcome back to Human Resources for the People. It's a human capital revolution. Planned Parenthood workers are on strike right now, and we need to talk about it. Elon Musk and Tesla aren't the only folks facing unfair labor practice charges. We've got a whole mess on our hands at Planned Parenthood. So, at Planned Parenthood, they seem to be divided up into regions. There's the North Central States region, which includes Minnesota, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Iowa. The workers from those states ultimately voted to unionize. Now, let's be clear here. There's about 435 workers in that area. Only about 238 voted in favor, 26 voted against the union. So, in total, about 60% of the eligible workers voted in this election. So, all this happened in July of 2022. It was about a month after the overturn of Roe v. Wade. And a lot of the concerns that drove this unionization was the fact that they were seeing patients twice, they were overwhelmed, they didn't have enough employees, they weren't paying enough. And the workers at the Planned Parenthood of the North Central States say they're looking for organization to hire more staff, raise the wages, and be more competitive with the healthcare facilities. In addition, Planned Parenthood was going through the departure of CEO Sarah Stowe, which she led the organization for 20 years, saw quite a bit of expansion into three new states. But this wasn't enough. There were labor organizations in the nonprofit sector that, in general, had been very aggressive in terms of unionization, and that's where you're seeing this. So it sounds like the Planned Parenthood workers were being mistreated there in the North Central states, again, Minnesota, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Iowa. So they joined the SEIU Healthcare, Minnesota and Iowa. They have about 1,700 workers across 14 groups. It's a sector within the Service Employees International Union. It's one of the most influential and largest labor unions in the United States. And you saw them recently, if you've been following the channel, in the Kaiser Permanente strike that was mostly West Coast. But when this happened back in 2022, Molly Gage, who's the vice president of human resources for the Planned Parenthood of North Central States, welcomed the Services Employees International Union Healthcare as the representative of bargaining unit employees. They said when reproductive rights and freedom of bodily autonomy are under intense attack, they'll work with the SEIU to support the employees, et cetera, et cetera. So they were quite engaging. They were quite happy with this result. Fast forward to March of this year, Planned Parenthood fired two union leaders in the North Central states. They were members of the bargaining team in charge of negotiating wages, benefits, and working conditions. You're seeing one of them right here, Grace Larson. She was a former licensed practical nurse with the Planned Parenthood of the North Central states. 11 of the other bargaining team members received final written warnings, and they were told that they could be terminated immediately if they violated any further policy. There's no clear guidance as to what they specifically violated, but allegedly they had confidential information about the organization that was shared in the union's private group chat. Planned Parenthood managers did not want anything to do with this group chat. The breach of confidentiality allegedly had something to do with a previous employee's termination in an effort by management to limit workers wearing union T-shirts on the job. Union was hoping to keep this turmoil under wraps, but the violations had happened months previous. The SEIU was aghast. Philip Cryan, who's the executive vice president for SEIU Healthcare, said, "I've never seen anything like this. It has been really concerning to see that the way the organization's leadership has decided to treat the elected members of their bargaining team in ways we've literally not ever seen any other employer ever do," which is surprising. Again, this is, some union leaders are comparing Planned Parenthood to Amazon, Starbucks, and Tesla. What these terminations came from, though, is a night after negotiations. They were in Des Moines. One union leader was talking to another union leader, a coworker. That coworker slapped the other one across the face and quote and made fun of her with her mind. A lot of people witnessed the slap, and ultimately the slap was unprovoked. The union leader didn't bring the incident to the attention of the bargaining team because she didn't want to distract from contract negotiations, but it continued. The coworker was abusive to the person's daughter, And ultimately, that's how the person was terminated that the union was opposed to. And I get that was confusing. Comment down or link down below if you'd like to read more about that specific incident. But that's how the person was terminated. Fast forward today, a year and a half later, they still don't have a contract with the employer. And so as a result, they're going to picket outside of clinics, and they did picket outside of clinics on Tuesday morning of last week in order to meet their demands, which includes increased wages and lower healthcare premiums. And they want to make sure people know about the unfair labor practices and the intimidation that took place. They have met 32 times in the past 13 months, but still have gotten nowhere. Molly Gage says, as we work to reach agreement on remaining items, the Planned Parenthood North Central States is committed to creating a robust and competitive benefits package that will attract and retain staff within a structure that is equitable and sustainable. And I think probably the key word there is sustainable. I'm not sure that the margins are quite very high for Planned Parenthood. And because the margins are not very high, they don't have a lot of room to negotiate upward and give people the pay increases that they're looking for. I just imagine that it's a pretty razor thin margin, and as a result, they're struggling and they can't give what everyone else needs. The union's saying that the pay hasn't kept up with the costs. Health insurance is going up 12% for Planned Parenthood workers, but the Planned Parenthood is only giving them 1% raise. Now let's look back, right? For example, I think if I recall correctly, GM offered 21% to the United Auto Workers, something around that, and and that was considered absolutely insulting to Sean Fain and the group of the United Auto Workers. But Planned Parenthood is offering a 1% raise as part of the negotiations. So even the greedy United Auto Workers, or sorry, the greedy General Motors is not quite matching Planned Parenthood. As a result of the termination that happened during the union meetings, or as a result of a union meeting after the slap that was heard around the world, the SEIU is accusing the Planned Parenthood of unfair labor practices because it is very, you do not want to terminate a negotiating members during the negotiation, and that can frequently be seen as an unfair labor practice. And whether or not you think the slap was, or whether or not you think a termination was warranted for the slap or not, it becomes a very fine line that organizations have to walk when they're terminating during negotiations. And as a result, they've alleged that there's unfair labor practices going on, and they've been on strike, or they've been holding out from work. They've been demonstrating. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Does 1% seem insulting? What do the margins look like? Let me know. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye, guys.